Folks, we finally got the trailer that we so deserve after all these years. We are blessed with a trailer from GenDesgin, Fumito Ueda, and his new project from his team for Project Robot. Screw The Witcher 4, screw the Elden Ring game, screw all of it. This is my most anticipated game ever by far. I wanted to analyze this trailer, give you some quick thoughts and first impressions about this trailer. And I want to mention that we are going deep into speculation territory here, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. A lot of theories are going to be thrown by everybody. And, jump in aboard because that's the fun part of this. Let me know your wildest theories. I would be very, very curious to listen to them. Absolutely. All right, let's analyze this amazing trailer, shall we?
If you recall, very swift and like 25 kilometers radius of ground zero.
So straight up from the get-go, we get this, right? We get this audio of someone or something saying to evacuate all areas within a 25-kilometer radius of ground zero now, probably transmitting this via radio to a bunch of other regions in the area. I think already the curious thing about this is that, one, he's speaking English. He's not speaking the language that is spoken in the previous 3 games, like Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian, which is a sort of deformed Japanese. That's what people kind of say that language is there. And you might be thrown to think like, oh, is this not a game that is part of that same universe? I would say it is because of other reasons, but I think it's something to point out. 2, this is a clear reference to already of a nuclear explosion of sorts. Ground zero is very much an indication of that. And from what I've seen, actually, a 25-kilometer radius evacuation is pretty standard procedure for these types of occurrences, right? I want you to listen closely here. You hear that? That is someone breathing, right? That is someone or something breathing. Let's keep it that way, all right, for now. Let's move on.
60 seconds. 55 seconds.
Okay, so we have this weird shot. We see this sort of glow. The lens is heavily out of focus. And then we got this shot from the character, right? I do believe that, at least from checking the shot here, that this is the shot in question, and then we get this shot right here, right? I do believe that this shot is being done like below the shoulder. The camera is like around here, and it's looking all the way up to this glow here from the character's helmet or head or whatever it is. Now this shot is already really revealing of something pretty obvious if you're a fan of, Fumito Ueda's work, which is I'm gonna call it a poncho. People call it a robe. I'm gonna call it a poncho because it feels to me like a poncho. But this poncho has the exact same style of ornaments that are used in Shadow of the Colossus. I mean, especially when you compare Wander's poncho, right? Over here, there is a clear similarity being drawn here from this character. Like it's uncanny, right? The main difference is this is pretty much like a rectangular shape, and this is a weird shape going on here, all right? And it feels like it's much shorter also. The overall design of the ornaments also feels a little bit different, but very similar, man. Like so similar, it's insane to Wander, specifically even to Wander's design. And another thing that is very different is actually the colors that are used. The colors that are used here and here, even though there's like this massive LUT being used on top as a post-processing here effect to make everything very bluish. But if we took this off, it definitely feels like the all of these ornaments feel like there's only like one color, right? While here, there's different sorts of colors in Wander's poncho. There's like this brightish color, Then there's this like middle-ish tonality, and then there's like this more darkish tone, right? Which is something that is different from this one, right? What is the main takeaway from this? I do believe that this is definitely from the same universe as the previous 3 games. Now, is it in the future? Is it in the past? Who the hell knows? I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, another thing that is so curious about this shot, this character's head, we can't really see much from the character's head here, right? Which is like, why? This shot is so odd in that sense, right? Like, why is the shot like this, right? It's very much an intention from Fumito Ueda here. But in this movement, we have a small glimpse of the character's face. It feels like this character is a robot, or at the very least, he's using some sort of high-tech helmet.
50 seconds.
Now he gets into this jumping pad, and straight up we see that his legs are robotic also. His hands seem also to be robotic.
30 seconds.
And even his whole body is robotic. So I'm not entirely sure if this character is human in any sense at all. But the thing that is weird is that, like I mentioned initially here, we hear a heavy breathing. A very alienish sort of heavy breathing, right? Which makes me question, like, what is this character? Is he full robot? Is it just his whole body that is robotic? Maybe his head isn't. Maybe he's just using a helmet. Is he full robot? Like, what's going on here, right? Oh, by the way, I do believe that all we're seeing here, it's actual gameplay. I do believe that there's definitely a push here from Fumito Ueda of like this balance or this intertwinement between cinematic and gameplay. That's always something that was actually really present in games like Shadow of the Colossus, to be fair. I do think he's exploring that even further here, right? But I do believe that the movement of this character is being inputted by the player, right? And the character is moving accordingly. I might be wrong, but you know, it's really interesting, right? So we're seeing the character going all the way up right beside the head of the robot. And we're at this cliff, we have a vista of this ocean and a massive explosion on the other side, right? We have no idea what's going on, but the odd thing about this explosion is that it's a purplish explosion. If you go and check nuclear explosions, they don't look purplish, they look red, right? I'm not entirely sure why this is. I've even pointed out, like, quickly, like, why is this explosion purple, right? If you work in this sort of area, let me know in the comments, actually, if you know something about this. But at least from what I've seen on the internet, it does seem like if, depending on the atmosphere and what sorts of gases are more predominant in the atmosphere, when there is a nuclear explosion of this scale, it might produce this purplish tint, right? There are other two things that I've also seen, which is fulminating gold. When you explode fulminating gold, it actually produces this purplish tint. The problem with this theory, and I'm already putting it to the side, is that fulminating gold cannot be translated into a nuclear explosion. So it doesn't really make much sense, but this is a video game, so who knows, right? And the third choice, and it's probably the more simpler one, it's probably just to counterpart this very bluish tonalities of the rest of the scene. Maybe it's just to give you this sort of like dream aspect to the scene, right? I do want to mention that there was this image that they posted 2 years ago in 2022, and at the end of 2022. And if you check this image, you have 2 rabbits in a hole, right? And I don't exactly know what is the significance of these 2 rabbits, but it feels to me like this might be a reference to Alice in Wonderland. We know that Fumito Ueda is a big fan of Totoro, the movie from Miyazaki, and that movie is heavily inspired by Alice in Wonderland. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm looking a little bit too much into this, but you know, that purplish color might give off that idea of dreamy, of a dream of sorts, right? But yeah, let's keep going. So the main character here, again, I do believe that this input from the character is actually you moving. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention is that this character is actually using a weapon, like a rifle. Like you see here, this is a rifle that the character has. So this is a big departure, I would say, from the rest of the games, because the rest of the games are very medieval in that sense, right? Where you either use a sword or, you know, in the case of Shadow of the Colossus, you even have a bow and arrow. So that's really curious to see. Also, like I want to mention, this whole animation is crazy detailed. Look at this again, right? Look at the amount of detail. Like, it feels like Fumito and his team really put a lot of time into make this character feel like it's mechanically very complex and it just makes sense, right? And then there's like this detachment from the rest of the body that feels very visceral in its nature, right? It feels like it's a last resource sort of thing. You wouldn't typically do this in the robot, right? Look at the spinal cords here, like breaking apart. It feels like it's something out of the 80s and 90s mech animes, like, you know, like Evangelion or Ghost in the Shell. Where, you know, there is this, at least I have never seen Evangelion. I know I need to fix that. But at least looking at a lot of scenes from Evangelion, it feels like there is this big relationship between the person that is controlling the mech and the mech itself, right? When the mech gets hurt, the person gets hurt, you know? Even the fights between mechs feel very visceral. They feel human in a way, right? And I do believe that this visceral nature is very much being explored here by Fumito, right? Like, look, I do believe that this whole sequence here is gameplay also. It's like a mixture of gameplay and cinematics, because the dude is just standing there, you know? It's not doing anything, it's not ducking or anything. It's only in the end that he ducks. But I do believe that we might be able to like move the character around, even if it's just a limited amount of movement. Also, the music here. Listen to the music. Dude, I don't know about you guys, but I'm drawing a lot of similarities from this music to this. Am I crazy? To this specific part of the music, at the very least. I don't know, man. I almost even feel like this, this flute from Shadow of the Colossus could actually fit really well here. Let me try, actually. I don't know, man. It does feel to me like there is some parallel, something here that is related to Shadow of the Colossus. Maybe I'm looking too deep into this, but I don't know. It feels to me that way. Also, we do have confirmation here that this project is codenamed Project Robot. I actually counted all the names at the very least to see how many people are actually working on this game. So my guess is that GenDesgin is basically 45 to 50 people at the moment, even though we do know, at least in their brand new, I feel like this is brand new website that they have put it up now, they are still recruiting people for this game. So if you speak Japanese, if you are Japanese and you want an opportunity to potentially work with these guys, go ahead and, you know, you have a chance right here. At least you have some roles. I do want to mention also that I remember a couple of months ago talking about this image that GenDesgin put up on their YouTube, and on their Twitter, I mean, And they did have this image with this character right here, this like bronze gold figure, whatever this is. And I suspected at the time that this could potentially be very much a theme of robots. And I suspected that this could have been the proof of that, even though when looking at these two characters, they do have some similarities in their overall design, but it feels like they are pretty different in terms of materials at the very least. This feels like a gold bronze figure, while this is like very metal, right? Now, also in the end, if you check their Twitter and even the image that GenDesgin uses in order to publish on their YouTube channel, they use this image specifically. This image is very, very puzzling. I don't really know what to do or say about this image. I think I need to explore it a little bit more, discuss with people, whatever. I think I need a lot more information on this image, because my problem with this image is that, because during this massive explosion of the nuclear explosion, we see that you have the detachment of the head from the rest of the body of the robot, and you actually see that the robot is being hit by a bunch of objects. It feels like they're actual, also metallic sort of objects of some sorts, buildings, whatever they are. And, we lose, we don't know what happens to the body, right? You look at this image and you think, oh, this is the robot, the body of the robot, right? It doesn't even have a head or anything. And I do believe so. I do believe that it is the body, right? But my issue with this image is that if you look at the body, it has nothing to do with this. This is very different. Like this body is insanely different from this. At least that's what it feels like to me. Something has happened in between the explosion and whatever this image is, right? It's also obvious to think that this kid is the same character, right? It does feel like he has like robotic legs. Maybe I'm wrong. Or the same sort of poncho that he's using. But it isn't far-fetched to think that this might be another kid that goes to this land that has been devastated by this nuclear explosion and finds this robot. Maybe he even finds the head of the robot first. Maybe the head of the robot indicates where the rest of the body is, and he goes to find that body. Because why is this kid specifically touching this body, right? I don't know, man. This image to me is super odd because this body just does not feel like the same body as this one, right? The overall structure, the materials that seem to be used here, it seems like, sure, you have all the cables and everything, but it seems like it's been, I don't know, it feels like a voodoo doll or something. I don't know what's going on here. I need some time to think. I don't really know what to think about this image. It's a very odd image to me. But I also want to point out that if you check this overall ground, right? I don't know what are these like greenish tonalities. Maybe it's just algae from the water on the side. But I wonder if the nuclear explosion probably also affected the overall landscape when it comes to, radiation, and it affected the overall environment. Because this coloration might definitely be an effect of that. It definitely also feels like this robot was not the only robot. There is this hand over here. And also this massive leg, body part or whatever that does not feel like it's from the same body. I mean, we can't really see the other leg or the other arm. These two parts might be from the same body. But if it isn't, that also means that there are multiple robots, multiple debris. And we do have confirmation, at the very least from the trailer, at least from the explosion, we can actually see that multiple debris and metal parts actually hit the body, so it wouldn't surprise me to see the landscape filled with all of these, metal parts, debris, whatever they are. This image to me is a mystery. Something happened with this robot, and I'm not entirely sure what, but it feels very different from this robot. That's for sure. Probably the same robot, but it's just so different. It doesn't even feel like the same. That's my thing. Honestly, the first thing that I thought was what I mentioned before. It felt like it has this feeling of like a voodoo doll or something. I don't know, man. I can't even point out what this is. Is it hay? Is it like, is it just nature engulfing the overall body? Because that's what happens after, you know, years of exposure to nature. I don't know. There's something about it that is just odd. Kouto here from the future. Excuse me if the audio is shitty, but yeah, I'm in the streets. But I just wanted to point out that there is a complete resemblance when it comes to the third Colossus to this creature. The more I think about this game, it really seems like it's a prequel to Shadow of the Colossus, man. I'm losing my goddamn mind. I do want to point out this image also that was posted by GenDesgin last year. This image was the first indication that this could potentially be some sort of mech game, because if you look at this, this is very reminiscent of like those sorts of first-person mech visualizers, at least from a lot of video games. And you even have here like on the bottom right and bottom left what seems to be like controls for, and the analog stick for the controller, right? You even have over here the 75. I'm not really sure what this is. It might just be a health bar system to indicate like how much is your health. You have like a compass here indicating some sort of objectives. But you know, you also have like the overall visor that is very, very reminiscent of all of these very mech games. All that I'm saying here is that sure, we have seen from the trailer that this approach to cinematics and a gameplay seems to be very intertwined. And honestly, all of that cinematics just felt like gameplay, actually. It seems that we are going to get a lot of these mechanics that we're used to from these, from Fumito Ueda style of games like climbing, right? But apart from that, I suspect that we might see a second part of the gameplay that is focused on the robot itself. We might be able to actually manipulate the robot in a first-person perspective. To what extent, what type of gameplay are we talking about? I have no clue. Only time will tell, really. We do also know that The Iron Giant, which is a movie from the 90s, is a big reference for Fumito Ueda, and is a big, and you can actually tell that it is a big influence in The Last Guardian, actually. And even if you check the ending of The Iron Giant and compare it to The Last Guardian, you can trace some similarities at the very least. But you know, but yeah, there's a lot of mystery surrounding this game. The more I think about it, the more I watch, the more questions arise, the more details I notice. But yeah, I think so far the biggest mystery, I mean, apart from the entirety of the trailer, obviously, but to me, the biggest mystery is definitely this image. This image is a complete mystery to me. There is like, I don't know, man. There's something about this image that just feels odd. Apart from the fact that this robot does not feel like it's the same robot, right? This character might not even be the same character. And even the overall colors that are used, right, are very different from the overall tonalities here from this scene. This scene is very monochromatic and is very intended to be very monochromatic to give you this sense of like sadness and almost despair, right? It's very intentional on that. While this feels like the aftermath of that, right? It's like two completely different scenes. But yeah, these are just some of my first thoughts looking at this trailer. I probably missed a couple of things that I wanted to mention. But I just wanted to put this out there, maybe start a discussion on the comments regarding this. But I definitely want to look into this a little bit more and maybe come out with some theories regarding this game. But overall, I feel like this game is very much in touch and attached to the overall universe of the previous games. It definitely looks that way. To what extent is this game in the past? Is this game in the future? If you ask me, it definitely feels like this game is in the past. It wouldn't surprise me if theories go around probably suggesting that this is like an origin of how the Colossus came to be in Shadow of the Colossus. And I can understand why a lot of people think that. You know, who knows? I don't know. I'm just throwing shades, all right? But yeah, let me know what you think. Hope you liked this video. Subscribe and have a good one. See ya.